Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic? Let's do it. Night shift workers. What's the creepiest thing you've experienced while on shift? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I used to work alone late at night at a warehouse near a port. For safety, that shit wouldn't fly these days. There's this one cold, very foggy night I'm on the forklift. It's like 1 a.m. or something. I look out and there's this silhouette of a person just standing there under the streetlight, shrouded by fog. It scared the shit out of me, as I was so used to being the only person in that area after 7 p.m. Anyways, the outline of a person got larger and larger through the dense fog, and finally a very homely looking guy emerged yelling, "Hey!" I get off the forklift and go over to him, not knowing if he was a threat. Dude cops a huge, toothless smile as he just asked, "Where are the lot lizards at?" I sent him on the way to the Love's truck stop a few blocks down. I hope he found true love that night. Working third shift as an EMT called to do a welfare check with PD, we could see the guy's legs hanging over the bed through the bedroom window. Knocking, no movement at all, obvious dead body. We force the garage door into the kitchen. Soon as we do, hit with the death smell, it's certain. All of a sudden, we hear hysterical laughing. Chilled me to the bone. Who could be in this house with a body that smells that bad? PD drew guns from holsters, starts clearing the house, giving commands while the laughing continues. Turns out, it was the dead guy's pet bird. Used to work in Vegas as a diver for the huge aquariums in one of the casinos. This tank happened to be close to the entrance of a popular nightclub. We started our dives at 3 a.m. and let me tell you, nothing good happens at 3 a.m. in Vegas. I'm outside the tank, spotting my other diver, and see some paramedics roll up with a stretcher, and a little while later, they bring this dude out of the club fully strapped down, and he's laughing like the damn Joker, with his eyes rolling up into his head. His face is covered in dozens and dozens of razor cuts. Honestly, there isn't much blood, but you just see these lines all over his face, and he is just losing his mind and laughing. It was so completely unnerving, and the rest of the area is just so silent, and all I can hear is my diver air comp and his laughing. I can only assume bad trip and or psychosis, and he is hoping the guy got the help he needed. His face was probably effed for life. I used to work the late shift as classroom IT support for college. Since night classes rarely had urgent issues, we spent most of our time handling repairs and maintenance that couldn't be done during the day. I'm fine with the dark, so I usually didn't bother turning on the lights if I just needed to do something quick on a computer. One night around 10 p.m., I had a ticket to install software on the instructor's PC in a classroom I hadn't been to before. I headed in, the room dimly lit by the faint glow of hallway lights spilling through the door. About halfway across the room, I stopped dead in my tracks. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, and this overwhelming feeling hit me I was being watched. No, not just watched. I felt surrounded. My eyes slowly adjusted to the dark, and that's when I saw them. Hospital beds, dozens of them, lining the walls. And in each bed, there was a figure sitting up, staring straight at me. Holy shit. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I blurted out instinctively, heart pounding in my chest. Then it freaking hit me that they weren't real. They were all just plastic dummies. I had wandered into a nursing classroom. Driving an 18-wheeler at night, I've had a couple of things happen. One night around midnight, after driving most of the day in heavy traffic near Murfreesboro, Tennessee, I saw a lady in between lanes with a lacy white dress just blowing in the wind. I slammed on the brakes and missed. A broken bag of concrete with that dust all in the air. I immediately found a place to park and went to bed. Night shift nurse. Lots of spooky things, but then one that always creeped me out was that at the nursing home I used to work at, it had been an old mansion prior to it being turned into a facility, so it already had creepy Addams Family vibes. But it was just a thing where residents would see a little boy playing in their room before they died. I'd be giving meds or whatnot, and they would look past me and point to nothing. "Is that little boy yours? Why is that little boy up so late?" All of them would die within days of seeing him. Also, pretty neat in a way. Woman's prison guard here. I had just watched Smile, and the next night while I was in the mental health pod, an inmate was standing in a weird ballerina position with her right hand holding a water cup out from her body, perfectly straight and with her head tilted, all while she has the biggest, creepiest smile on her face. She was standing in the exact center of her cell, staring out. In 15 minutes, when I walked her to her again, she was still standing still, smiling at the door. In 15 more minutes, she was asleep in her bed. And in 15 more minutes, she was standing and saying over and over again that she wanted to hurt me and do that I should let her out. I had a blank, serious face for every encounter with her. Inside, I was screaming and trying to not be a bitch. She has never done anything like that before or after meeting me. She usually raps about her reproductive system and its parts, or is talking to evil spirits and joking with them or fighting with them. I was on an airfield driving a truck down the runway to inspect the lights when thick fog starts rolling in. It's pretty terrifying. You don't know where you are, and your flashing lights, so tower and pilots will notice you, light the fog and make it even more disorienting. You're entirely dependent on the radio to make sure there are no planes heading toward you, and you're praying you're not about to cross into a restricted area you need the tower's permission to enter. And if you're in an area that's got decent door population, good luck. I've had deer get spooked by my flashing lights and run into me. You can't see them because of the fog, and all of a sudden, wham, something big hits the side of your truck. That's pretty frightening and harrowing, especially if there's a language barrier. But I'm glad it worked out okay. I mean, at least for you. And hopefully that person got some help or whatever was going on. But, wow. I was working in a 7-Eleven at night, and the man walked in, obviously very high on something. He didn't acknowledge me and walked straight to where the beer is, and then turned in and went around to the walk-in part of the fridge where the back stock is. As I went over to get him out, I saw his huge eyes peering at me through the fridge doors, and I hesitated for a second because he had this insane look on his face. I finally went to yell at him, and he grabbed a Corona bottle and smashed it like in the movies, pointed the shards of the bottle neck at me, and said something in a different language I didn't recognize. There's a pretty wide variety of accents and languages where I lived, but this one was unusual and totally new to me. I immediately backed out and called the police while he kept breaking things in there, eventually gashing his upper arm somehow, and they tased him in the fridge, lol. I'll never forget those eyes, though. It sent a chill down my spine. He was very well could have been thinking about killing me. I worked the night shift as a civil engineer on the Golden Gate Bridge suicide net. One night, after I finished an inspection in the south span around 1 a.m., I was driving my cart back on the sidewalk on the main span when I drove past one of the usual white inspector pickup trucks in the closure area. I stopped my cart after passing the truck and looked back, realizing it wasn't one of our official trucks. It was a civilian SUV, red, lights on, engine running, nobody inside. I went up to the car and immediately my stomach sank. Keys in ignition, phone on the dashboard, and a note on the seat. I called the bridge patrol immediately, but we had to harness up and search the inside of the bridge to make sure they hadn't climbed down there. We dropped a flare in the ocean so that the Coast Guard could read the tides to search for the body. Not sure if they ever found them. I think about that person who was so racked with pain that they pulled over on the bridge, left their engine running, got out, and jumped over the edge. One that my granddad told me when he was about 13 to 14, and it wasn't uncommon to leave school at a very young age to help support the family. He went to work down the local coal mines. One shift, he was down in the depths alongside the older miner he was apprenticed to when a fellow miner went past, giving an acknowledged nod of his head as he went by. The only problem with this was that he knew the miner couldn't have been there because he'd been killed in a cave-in a few weeks before. My granddad took off for the surface as fast as he could and didn't want to go back ever again. But money was tight and everyone had to work and the family was to eat, so back down the mine he went. 3 days later, a huge slab in the ceiling of the shaft he was working in collapsed, killing the man my granddad was apprenticed to and trapping my granddad by the leg. He was down there in total darkness, stuck with the body of his senior worker for over 12 hours before they could free him and bring them up. He always swore that seeing the dead miner was his warning, and that he should have found a way to not go back. His leg never did heal properly, and was still a mess to the day he died. I actually have quite a few. I worked the night shift for most of my adolescence. I'll share two. One, working as an overnight security guard at Nordstrom. We had to walk through the storage rooms and check all the back stairwells and emergency hallways. There was one room where all the mannequins were stored. I was on the cameras, and they picked up motion in the mannequin room. Usually it's like a sign moving when the air comes on. I looked and didn't see anything. A few seconds later, the motion went off again. Still didn't see anything, but decided to go check. Now, many people are freaked out by mannequins, but I'm not. My coworkers always had spooky, haunted mannequin room stories, though. Anyway, I get into the mannequin room and don't see anything. As I go to leave, I hear a noise from above me. I look up and see nothing. At this point, I'm kinda creeped out. I do another lap, and as I'm leaving, I see something out of the corner of my eye. I freak out and spin around. It's a freaking balloon. Must have floated to the ceiling and was now falling down. 2. Same job. It was on the 3rd and 4th floors of a mall. And one of my new jobs was to walk through the back stairwell that was made for fire escape. I was really overweight at the time and had to take breaks on the stairs. As I'm walking, I suddenly hear something, footsteps. Someone else was walking on the stairs. I call out, "Hello, security, is someone there?" Dead silence. I keep walking and hear the footsteps again. This time I shout, "Security, who's there?" Nothing. The footsteps started again, and I started hustling. Now there's no way out of the stairs once you're on them. They go all the way down to the 1st floor and exit outside. I was on the 4th floor. I hear the footsteps coming, and they're getting louder and closer. I start running, and so do the other steps. I race down the stairs frantically to get my key to disarm the fire door. If you don't disarm it and go through it, the fire alarm goes off. I'm trying to get my key in, and I hear the footsteps loud, coming right at me. I slam the door open, setting off the alarm. I run outside and turn around with my mace, ready to spray whoever comes out. Nothing. Dead silence. Nobody was there. I lied to my boss and the fire department and said I accidentally tripped into the door. When I was 22, I interned in a nursing home to get credits for school. I couldn't find any nursing home nearby that would accept this one, but it included night shifts. Anyway, one night the two other nurses and I were right about done with our shift around 11 p.m. The rule was that we had to wait for the night shift to relieve us. We were waiting in the break room or conference room since there are cameras there, and we can see if any resident gets out of their room. As we're chatting, my colleague stops, stares at the camera and says, I think I saw someone in the first floor corridor. Let's go and check it out. The other nurse couldn't be bothered, so I tagged along. So we took the stairs to check it out, but as soon as we got there, I got this feeling, like it was cold, but not really. Something felt wrong. We checked the left wing, no one. We checked the right wing, no one. Alright, cool, no emergencies. Let's go back to the break room. We call the elevator, we get on, press the button to the ground floor, and the doors were closing. And then we both saw it. Right as the doors were closing, an old lady was standing right in front of the closing door, smiling at us. We rushed to the break room, terrified, and checked the cameras. Nothing. The night shift arrived maybe 2 minutes later, but it felt like an hour. I was supervising the overnight restocking at a grocery store, trying to do the next week's scheduling. There were maybe 5 of us in the store around 2:30 a.m. I am in the manager's office on the computer, and I have the door entrance in the corner of my eye. At some point, I turned to see an extremely disheveled homeless man staring at me in the doorway maybe 5 feet away. I never heard him, never saw him from the corner of my eye, and after security footage was reviewed, he had been standing there for maybe 20 minutes. I screamed and he screamed, and he ran back into the store proper before running out the emergency fire escape door in receiving. The part that creeps me out to this day is, how did he get in? We have cameras on all doors in the back, but pretty terrible coverage for the back. Originally, I thought he snuck in through the receiving door during deliveries during the night, but nope. Okay, maybe the door for recycling your garbage is not. So our next theory was that he came in during closing and hid somewhere. Nope. There's video of him leaving receiving and wandering around for a bit before coming to the manager's office and just standing there for like 20 minutes. Apparently, this became a problem deal, and finally, someone from loss prevention found out. He came in like 4 days prior of that night, wandering into receiving, and then just kind of hid somewhere for 4 days. What the F? I worked at 7-Eleven years ago and was filling in for someone on the overnight shift. Guy pulls up in a taxi, hammered, only me and him in the store. As he's looking over the beer options, he says to his friend on the other end of his flip phone, I gotta rob this 7-Eleven now. I don't even have any money to pay for the cab. I don't really have a choice. I started weighing my options in the eternity it took him to browse. I was looking for a stick or pipe to crack him with. He was quite drunk. Then I thought to smash a glass coffee pot over his head. Nah, this isn't the cartoons. What do I do? I remembered I had the cell number of a cop that worked that area and texted him. He said he was working and on his way. Longest wait ever, as I left him inside and pretended to sweep up or mop or anything but be near the counter. The cop came in, grabbed the guy, and he had a loaded revolver on him. Bullets dodged successfully.